To think of them dying from a disease like that.
In the spring of 1944, the war was still raging in the Pacific. Racist government policies had excluded many Canadians from enlisting in the Canadian military. Chinese Canadians were not allowed to enlist in the Canadian forces, so some joined the British Army.
Chinese who were born in Canada were denied citizenship. They were denied all the benefits of, in certain places, owning property. They were denied all the privileges of the Caucasians.
But they always thought us Orientals were Japanese. And I said, but I'm not Japanese. Anyways, to prove that I wasn't Japanese, I bought myself, they made these wooden pins that said China. And so I bought one of those and wore it on my jacket or coat, whatever I was wearing. So when I went out, they know I'm Chinese, I'm not Japanese. Being in the Army, I really enjoyed the Army. There was no discrimination there. I was treated just like everybody else. I just had a wonderful time in the Army, even though we had to work shift work, but you got used to that afterwards, especially the midnight to 8 one. And being at the old hotel, staying at the old hotel Vancouver, they had a roof garden there, so in the afternoons before we had to go to work, we would sunbathe up in the roof garden. But everybody was very good to me. I had no discrimination in the Army. So after the war, later on, I couldn't get a job out west there because of the racial discrimination. So I went and took a dressmaker's designer's course for a year. And my father was very ill and he was dying, you see, so I couldn't move east. But after my dad passed away, my Japanese friend, Buck Suzuki, said to me, go to Toronto. They don't care if you're Oriental, as long as you can do the work.
When Madam Chiang Kai-shek was visiting Washington, she heard about us. So she sent a letter. I cannot find that letter, but I wish I could, telling us how wonderful it was to have the only Chinese, even though we were auxiliary and home, in Canada.
By the end of the war, the RCAMC had some 3,656 nursing sisters in service. 2/3 of these were overseas. They had staffed 100 major hospital units, treated over 60,000 patients, and won 386 awards. Nursing sister Joan Bamford Fletcher received the Member of the British Empire Medal for her services in the Pacific. Servicewomen worked in a variety of occupations and classifications. Wireless telegraphy became a pivotal aspect in the intelligence community.
I joined up in 1944. After basic training, I trained as a wireless telegrapher and came out discharged as a leading REN, TEL-SO, they call them, Telegrapher Special Operator. And after GALT, the basic training at GALT, I was sent to St. High, where we had about a 5 or 6 months training in wireless telegraphy and in code. And then we were sent out to Victoria, to Esquimalt, where we worked. And we were taught a Japanese code. And what we did, we had earphones and things would be coming through on the earphones and we'd be typing it all out in the code. And we just knew certain figures and what the Japanese that was coming over, the dits and the dots, made certain combination of letters. And then we didn't know what we were copying down. We were just copying down a coded message. And then that was sent off to somebody else to be decoded and went down through the different stations until they knew what they were seeing. But we didn't know actually what we were copying, but occasionally somebody would tell us what it was, but nothing's definite. And at that time we didn't talk much about what we did. The family didn't know what we did. It was just a job as far as we were concerned. Now it's all been publicized and we were what they called radio spies because we were intercepting Japanese code, and that was then being forwarded all around to the different decoding places. But it was a very, very interesting bit of work, and we thoroughly enjoyed it, but we didn't really know what a vital sort of job that we were doing until afterwards. But it was quite fascinating. We were there when the VE Day came, and some of us had been sent down to the States for a short course with the American Navy. And of course we were disgusted because when VE Day came, everybody was celebrating up in Victoria and Vancouver, but down in Seattle the Americans said, you may think the war's over, but we don't. And so we had nothing to do as far as celebrating there until we were back, of course, in Victoria for VJ Day. And some of us even had some of the messages that came through from the Japanese saying they were capitulating and this sort of thing, which is all terribly exciting at the time and brought it all home to us very, very quickly.
Women enlisted from all across Canada for a variety of reasons. Their numbers swelled to 16,000 in the Royal Canadian Air Force Women's Division, 20,000 in the Canadian Women's Army Corps, 6,500 in the Women's Royal Canadian Naval Services, 4,400 in the nursing service, and 38 medical doctors. Nearly 1 million women were involved in the production of war goods, which accounted for more than 30% of the aircraft industry. Their contributions enabled women to be a part of the design and implementation of Canadian policy and structure.
Well, I'm very, very proud to be a Canadian, and I'm very glad that I was able to serve for a couple of years. And I'm Navy, heart and soul.
First you take off all your clothes, then you try to touch your toes, get a needle in the arm, and salute and salute and salute.
This is something I always felt, that I was a Canadian, and nothing thrills me more than to hear, "Oh Canada."
March around that big parade square till you're sure that you'll drop like there, then some night tries to direct you, just in case the CO expects you.
I think once you're a Canadian born with a strong sort of background and a strong schooling and having served in the Wrens like that, I think it's something that you never forget, never lose.
Canadians today benefit because of the honor, duty, and sacrifice of our veterans, both past and present.